The following program presents principles designed to promote good health and is not intended to take the place of personalized professional care. The opinions and ideas expressed are those of the speaker. Viewers are encouraged to draw their own conclusions about the information presented.
Hello and welcome to Health for a Lifetime. I'm your host, Don McIntosh, and we're going to be talking today about stress. What can we do about this common plague, if you will, in America? There are good things that we know about stress. There are negative things when we think about stress. Here to talk to us about this important subject is Dr. Skip McCarty. Welcome, Dr. McCarty.
Yeah.
Now, you have done extensive research over the last 20 years with stress seminars, and now you're a fellow of the American Institute of Stress. You've done some major presentations for that organization in December of 2000 and whatnot. You have a seminar, Stress Beyond Coping, that has been endorsed by, among other groups, the General Conference of Seventh-day Adventists. And we're going to be covering some things today that people can get more information by actually looking at your seminar, getting it for themselves or their community by calling here or that Health Ministries Department of the General Conference. But one of the keys that you've mentioned to me that's very important, one of the things to look at is exercise as it relates to stress, and that's what we want to talk about today. Give us just an overview of your whole approach to stress, and then look at these keys, and then we'll hone in on exercise.
Okay, Don. The model that I operate out of is called the stress tank, and it kind of shows all the relationship of the parts to the whole. It shows think of your life as a tank, and stressors constantly coming into your life every day. And if the stress fills to the overflow point, then various kinds of harm can result: illnesses, relationship breakdowns, strain in relationships, accident proneness, etc. Fortunately, there's a pressure relief valve on this tank, and when that pressure relief valve is fully open with the 7 keys of stress management, it drains the stress tank to safe levels, prevents stress from building to the harmful point. Things we can do to close that pressure relief valve as well: alcohol, tobacco, addictive behaviors, shopping, overspending addictions, and so forth, can actually create more stress, even though they're short-term.
You feel good when you go shopping. You feel bad when you've spent more than your husband or wife wants.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Well,
Okay.
Not just feel bad, but you have debts, and it creates serious problems. Then there's things we can do to create larger tanks, actually, to handle more stress at any one time. And those are all things we do in a 12-hour seminar. But I want to focus right now on one of the 7 keys.
Okay.
7 keys that open the pressure relief valve.
Prayer, relaxation, exercise, viewpoint, eating healthy, neighborly love, time management, and we're going to talk about exercise this time.
Exercise today.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So tell us about exercise. How does it fit into stress management or dealing with stress?
Well, in the stress management pyramid that I've developed, in which I show how the 7 keys are arranged hierarchically, starting with the lesser important ones at the bottom. Not that they're not important; they're very important. But compared to the ones above them, they're less important than the ones above them. Now, the bottom 4 components: the eating healthfully, exercise, relaxation, time management, organization. You can kind of arrange those differently. You could put exercise up higher along that, but the top 3 are even more important. But exercise is one of the foundational elements. It is very important for stress management, very important.
So it's not something that we should just relegate to the dustbin. It's something we should focus on. It does have very positive elements when relating to stress.
And it's something you can do immediately. Some of the other techniques in stress management take some time to learn them. Exercise, you know how to do it. You could go right to you can start immediately and get benefit.
What exactly makes it important?
Well, in answering that question, Don, I'd like to kind of explain the difference between the 2 different kinds of stress.
Okay.
We've talked before about real stress, which is the stress in which your body is actually invaded by something, or you're assaulted in some way. And process of stress is just ideas going through our heads that we imagine we're threatened, or fears that come from just irrational beliefs that we have and so forth. That's two ways to distinguish stress that researchers distinguish between real and processes.
Real
but there's
or
two other
imagined.
ways.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
two other ways. And one is called distress.
Distress. Okay.
Distress is the harmful stress, like disease.
Okay.
The harmful stress that actually it raises your stress hormones to a level that's helpful in the short run. It helps you through an acute stressor, but if it becomes chronic, it actually adversely affects your immune system and makes you more irritable and all kinds of things that are harmful to you in every way. Chronic stress is harmful in every way.
So you want to avoid this.
You want to avoid it if at all possible. Now, and then it's where our resources to adapt to whatever situation we're in are overloaded.
Okay.
Now, the other kind of stress is a beneficial stress. Stress researchers realize this very early on.
Eustress, that's a new word for me.
The little prefix "u" on the word stress there is a Greek prefix that means good.
Okay.
Eulogy means
good words about somebody.
yeah, speaking good words of somebody who's deceased. And euphoria means
you feel just great.
Yeah,
you feel good.
Feeling of well-being,
Okay.
a good feeling. And so eufest is beneficial stress, the spice of life. It's working hard toward achieving a goal, and you achieve a good goal. It's having enough stress, enough challenge. If you weren't challenged when you got up during the day, if you had absolutely nothing to do, when you got up, it sounds heavenly.
But it's
but
not.
it really, if you were to put an active person on their back, flat on their back, that's very stressful for an active person. So now I've got a chart showing in the workplace what they've worked out. That center column there is optimal
Stress.
the optimal amount of stress, and that's eustress. You're adequately challenged. You have plenty to do, and you can even have added to that pressure, added work pressure. That's a little bit more than you can do comfortably, and it's a great challenge, but still it's acceptable. Your productivity is acceptable and still good, but you get too much work overload, and you have distress. Then it gets dangerous. The same works the other way, which is very interesting. If you have too little to do, you can still do okay if it's just a little less than you're capable of, but if it gets way less, if you have nothing to do almost on your job, or you get laid off, let's say, and no other job prospects, it can be very distressful, harmfully distressful to your health. And so now how exercise fits into this. When you exercise, Don, you put your body under stress. You actually stress your body, but it's a healthy stress. It's eustress. That's the point. It's eustress.
So the ways that exercise benefits is because it kind of gives us a dry run at stress, but it's a positive way.
Well, yes, and it actually puts your body under stress. Now, there's a number of benefits for exercise.
Okay.
Numerous benefits.
What are some of the ways that exercise benefits in this way?
All right. Number one, it enables us to react more calmly and less drastically to stressful situations. It conditions us. It conditions us to do that. It helps our body functions return to normal more quickly after the stress reaction.
So it's just like training for a marathon. We go out and we run it every day, or we walk it at first, then we are more and more able to handle that stress for the long haul.
Yeah, there's a stress sequence, kind of a stress reaction.
What exactly do you mean by stress reaction? What's that mean?
Well, there's three stages to the stress reaction, or the stress response.
Okay.
And Dr. Hans Selye, the original researcher in the field of stress, back in the 30s and the 40s and 50s, he created the stress reaction that talked about these three sequences.
Okay.
The first sequence, the first stage, is the alarm stage.
Okay.
This is where you perceive some kind of threat. When you go into this, your
that
body
does look alarming. That is a
your
threat.
body,
Okay.
your body actually biochemically prepares to meet an emergency situation.
Okay.
And
is that guy causing the stress?
changes take place,
or is he under stress? It could be either, right?
Well, yeah, he's
causing the stress. Okay.
I have no idea.
His teeth are bare.
It just
his
looked like
sword
good
is
clip
up.
art to represent the alarm
good. All right,
reaction.
good.
So,
All
okay.
right, so that's the first stage, the alarms.
And you have your heart rate increases.
Okay.
Your blood pressure, your blood thickens, and your vessels constrict. So your blood pressure rises. To get the blood out to your extremities, because you're going to need them to get away from this situation or to fight in this situation. your respiration increases,
More
the
oxygen
rate
to
of
the brain.
respiration,
Okay.
more oxygen to the brain, into the extremities. Stress hormones and adrenaline are pumped into your system.
You're ready to
and,
go. The fight or flight syndrome there.
That's right.
Situation.
Breathing, energy, sugar is pumped into your blood, muscle
Okay.
functions keener, but your digestive process shuts down. And the reason for that is that
It's not as important.
that's right. It's more long term, and then your body senses that no long term projects are allowed right now. We got an emergency in front of us, so it prepares to meet that emergency. That's the alarm stage. Then it goes in to the next stage, which is the resistance stage. We're prepared for fight and flight in the alarm stage.
All right.
And
Again, two very dangerous guys there, I see. With the gun and the wily rabbit.
Right.
Okay. Then we go next to the resistance stage.
stage.
Oh, look at these guys.
this is
Okay.
now, we're actually
they're sparring there.
That's right.
They say, hey, look, you
This
can't
is
take
where-
over my house.
This is where stress becomes chronic.
Okay.
This is where it's not dealt with in just a few minutes.
It's a long fight.
It becomes a more lengthy engagement.
Okay.
And when stress becomes chronic, then it gets dangerous, because the stress hormones are continuing to circulate at high levels in your body, and when that happens, eventually, and sometimes this can happen in a matter of just a few days, that your immune system gets suppressed to the place where you're now susceptible more susceptible to colds, to flu, to killer diseases.
Okay.
And the longer that stress goes unrelieved, the more dangerous it gets.
And so exercise fits
Yes.
into this how?
Well, we're coming to that,
Okay.
because the last stage is returning to normal. You either deal with the stress and return to normal, or you actually exhaust your body resources. And when you exhaust your body resources, you can get depressed.
I see the guy on
You
the
can-
guy in the picture there. I can tell which one is kind of exhausted. He's in the
You-
stocks.
You have a
Yeah.
clue.
Maybe his stocks have fallen or something there. Okay. Oh, the
Okay.
other guy's happy. He's got a big grin with his teeth there. Okay, good.
When you're exhausted, then you can health breakdown. You can go into shock,
Okay.
in fact, and or you could even die if it's severe enough and long enough. You could die from it.
So
So
this-
stress can actually kill.
So the stress reaction is fight or flight. It's the resistance, and then it's either return to normal or you're over. You're exhausted.
You
kaput.
just get exhausted, yeah. And some people, they just can't go on anymore and get depressed. Now, what exercise does, if you look at the physiological changes that take place during exercise, again, heart rate goes up, the amount of blood being pumped out of the system increases, so the blood can get out to the working muscles. Blood pressure rises again, and it's interesting. Blood thickens when you're in stress, in case you're wounded.
Get those clots out there.
Get
huh?
those clots going. Yep. Your breathing is more rapid, but just like in a stress response, however, it's deeper when you exercise, so it's
Okay.
healthier. Because the rapid breathing in a stress reaction tends to be shallower. Tissues take up more oxygen, energy-rich sugar in the blood again, just like when you're under a lot of stress. And the digestive process tends to shut down during the exercise time as well. Again, to get the blood out to the extremities where it's needed. Now, when you exercise, several things are happening. One is you're using the chemicals that are the stress chemicals that are produced. So if you're in chronic stress and you exercise, you're beginning to burn off some of those chemicals that you need to be burning off.
They're already there, and you need to get rid of them.
That's right. You need to lower those chemicals. But also, when you exercise, just like you were saying, you're conditioning your body. It's
Okay.
like running plays over and over again. So you just do them instantaneously.
Conditions the body to react more calmly, less drastically to stressful stimuli, helps the body function, return to normal more quickly, and then enables deeper relaxation and sleep.
That's the third thing that it does for us. It
Okay.
enables deeper relaxation and sleep. Have you ever been so tired at the end of the day that you couldn't sleep?
Yes. Yeah.
And
That means I'm too stressed out?
well, a lot of times that comes from a sedentary. Maybe you haven't had enough exercise during the day. So what happens is your mind is exhausted, but yet your body is tense.
still awake.
Your body is tense.
Boy, I tell you, when I exercise, I feel like staying up all night, though. That's a problem for me.
So you can't exercise that late. You
Okay.
can't- and that if you're doing
mean, even if I
aerobic
do it in the
exercise just
morning.
before you,
Even if I do it in the morning, it's amazing. But,
that right?
But
well, you know what you're saying when you say that.
no, what am I
What you're
saying?
saying is your body requires less sleep. Your body requires less sleep when you exercise regularly.
That's right.
I find the same thing. So that's one of the things when people say, I don't have time to exercise, give me a break. I'm already so busy. Many people, with their exercise on a regular basis, they find they do not need as much sleep. Their body actually gets along well without that much sleep. They actually save nearly as much time in the sleep that they need when they exercise aerobically, even earlier in the day, like you say. So it doesn't mean you can't sleep. It just means you sleep more efficiently, more effectively.
We're talking with Dr. Skip McCarty. We're talking about the benefits of exercise as it relates to stress. We've talked about how if we exercise, we can run right back and look at the rest of this program. We hope that you do that. Join us when we come back.
Have you found yourself wishing that you could shed a few pounds? Have you been on a diet for most of your life, but not found anything that will really keep the weight off? If you've answered yes to any of these questions, then we have a solution for you that works. Dr. Hans Deal and Dr. Eileen Ludington have written a marvelous booklet called Reversing Obesity Naturally, and we'd like to send it to you free of charge. Here's a medically sound approach successfully used by thousands who were able to eat more and lose weight permanently without feeling guilty or hungry through lifestyle medicine. Dr. Deal and Dr. Ludington have been featured on 3ABN, and in this booklet, they present a sensible approach to eating, nutrition, and lifestyle changes that can help you prevent heart disease, diabetes, and even cancer. Call or write today for your free copy of Reversing Obesity Naturally, and you could be on your way to a healthier, happier you. It's absolutely free of charge, so call or write today.
Welcome back. We're talking with Dr. Skip McCarty. We're talking about stress. We're talking about what we can do to alleviate it or reduce it, put it in the right level, I guess is a better way to say it. And joining us today has been Dr. Skip McCarty. We've talked about several different things, the fight or flight syndrome. We've talked about how it is that the resistance that comes when we exercise. We've talked about returning to normal, and all these things exercise helps us with, because it kind of trains our body, uses up those hormones, and all these different things that you've been talking with us about. What are some other benefits of exercise that we can appreciate in terms of stress?
Okay. Stress, besides enabling better relaxation and sleep, also raises the good cholesterol, the HDL cholesterol, the happy cholesterol, as you like to refer to it.
Okay. So it protects against heart disease and all those things?
The protective cholesterol raises it. It's the only recommended thing we can do to raise that good cholesterol. Kind of carries off the bad elements there. And it burns off biochemical byproducts of the stress reaction. So again, when stressful situations prepare us for fight or flight, often we don't do either. And so exercise helps to burn off some of those chemicals that are in our system to be used. It also triggers the release of pain-killing substances from the brain, the endorphins, so that it gives a good feeling, and that's important for in stressful times, and promotes just general health, including cardiovascular conditioning. I've got a couple of slides from research done by Dr. Lester Breslow, who is Dean of School of Public Health at UCLA. This shows 7,000 people studied over a period of 9 years, shows death rates during that time from people who never exercise. You see 16.1% there, and those who exercised often. And the greatest, this was for women now, this particular slide, there was a difference of over 2 times the number of people that from those who exercised often to those who exercised never. Twice as many people died during that period of time in that study that they were studying. But notice the biggest difference was just if they just got out and exercised some. They just tried to get out and exercise some.
So a little bit is actually helpful for stress and for longevity.
It is. And the next slide shows with men was even more pronounced. Almost 3 times more men died in that study who never exercised than those who exercised often and quite vigorously.
So again, exercise, even moderate exercise, is better than none at all.
Absolutely, absolutely, and for stress, very important. For all the reasons we've been talking about.
Sometimes people will say to me, I'm going to go jogging or this or that, and I kind of tongue-in-cheek say, why don't I give you a ride? I mean, if you need to really get to that fast, they kind of laugh. Then there's that statement, I can't remember who said it, says, you know, when I had the urge to exercise, I just lay down for a while and it passes.
W.C. Fields.
Okay.
Yeah, he lays down until it goes away.
Mm-hmm.
There's a cartoon I like. It's a Walnut Cove cartoon that has these two joggers. One's quite heavy set, and the other is slender, and they're jogging along, and you get the exact way that goes here. One says to the other, the skinny guy, or the heavy jogger says to the trim one, when I started running, my only concern was to prevent heart trouble. But now that I've been getting up and running at 4:30 in the morning for about a month, my perspective is starting to change. And the next frame, the trim jogger says, yeah, that's the thing about running. It gives you a whole new outlook. And the final frame, the two joggers drop off in the distance, and the heavy-set jogger is saying, yeah, heart disease actually is starting to sound pretty good. But it's not really true. I mean, you actually, when you start exercising and get exercising regularly, you look forward to it, and you don't feel as good when you're not exercising.
You've suggested that exercise is really important, but people say, well, look, there's lots of different things I can do. What kind of exercise is the best?
Where for stress, aerobic exercise is still the best. Okay. Aerobic exercise where you're working and you're getting enough oxygen when you're working, with your heart rate is going up to a
considerable amount, a target rate that you're supposed to be at. Okay.
Right.
So what exactly is aerobic exercise? It sounds pretty chemical.
Yes, there's actually three components to aerobic exercise.
All right.
And you can put it in the acronym FIT. You have frequency,
intensity,
at least 3 to 6 times a week.
Okay.
Intensity, I like to just suggest it's easy for me to remember. Work up to a sweat, and then you want to hold it at that level if you can for 20 to 60 minutes. Probably not more than 60 minutes, and for most of us, maybe not even close to that. But particularly if you're starting.
Mm-hmm.
But
so FIT, frequency, intensity, and time. Doesn't count, though, that we're under these television cameras and it makes us sweat, right?
That's right.
That's not aerobic.
Doesn't count.
But if I was kicking my legs as we're here for 20 minutes.
Yeah. And when we talk about aerobic exercise, we always have to add the caution that
check with your doctor.
Check with your doctor before you begin an aerobic exercise program if you're not regularly exercising now. So that's just to be safe.
All right. So in your stress management seminar, Stress Beyond Coping, which you've recommended for individuals and communities across the country. What is it that you recommend for choosing an exercise program for your individual stress management program?
Well, to have some kind of aerobic exercise program, and whatever works best for people, some kind of aerobic exercise program, and then secondly, and that could be walking at a real brisk rate, or jogging if they like, bicycling. Whatever works up to a sweat. And then secondly would be to choose some kind of activity that's enjoyable.
Okay.
Because that means you're going to get back to it. You'll look forward to getting back to it and doing it. You can experiment around a bit, experiment with even different equipments before you buy one. Go down to a gym and try different equipments if you're going to buy some equipment. But get something that you enjoy doing.
Now, I used to lament the fact that all my exercise things I like to do were dependent on other people. But in your seminar, one of your other keys was that you're supposed to have close relationships and relationships with other people. So that's really not a negative, it's a positive.
That's right.
Okay.
In fact, when you exercise with someone else, there's an accountability factor built in.
Mm-hmm.
Many people say, I've got a walking partner myself, and we call each other. And maybe one of us wasn't planning to go that day, but just,
they put the clamps on you.
That's right. And you
probably works into the time management key too that you talk about in your seminar, where you say, hey, I'm going to be with the greens, all 18 of them, or whatever, right? So you kind of work those all together. Kind of works together. So exercise, important to work it in.
Yeah.
Anything else?
And then we suggest exercising in fresh air if you possibly can. And even in the wintertime, if you're dressed properly, you can exercise in fresh air. And if you buy equipment, put your fresh air by an open window or something.
Put your equipment by the open window.
Yeah.
You said put the fresh air by the open window.
Did I?
That would be a real exercise program. Okay, so fresh air and with a friend. What were the three things? regular, get maybe accountability and all those different things.
Yeah. And then finally, if someone can't exercise aerobically,
Okay.
let's say they're just not able to do that.
Maybe they've been injured, maybe they're in a situation where they just can't do that right now.
Right.
Okay.
Then we suggest just anything you can do to raise your level of activity. Whatever will raise your general level of activity, to do that. As an example, I try to have as a policy never to take an elevator
When you can take the stairs.
if I can take the stairs. Even at O'Hare Airport, and quite frequently at O'Hare Airport, they have a lot of stairs you go up and down, or escalator. And I always try, if I can, my bags aren't too big, and if my wife wants to take the escalator, I'll go with her, because people are more important than something like
exercise
this.
program.
Yes.
Okay.
And but just having that as a general rule, when I go to the hospital, make hospital visits, I'm an associate pastor, then I'll try to take stairs going from different floors instead of the elevator, that type of thing. You can
walk to the hospital.
Yes, well, not exactly.
Not
that.
quite that far. Okay.
But
So I get the principle.
yeah, and we recommend you can do house chores aerobically. Get into, there's many different ways you can raise your general level of activity.
Vacuuming aerobics.
Some people will
Yeah.
will drive around a parking lot two or three times looking for a little closer spot when they ought to just, by principle, park farther away and walk in. Just even that little bit extra.
I don't want you to miss, the last point we talked about making.
Last point.
Right, and so let's go to that, because putting this, we've talked about stress, we've talked about its importance, we've talked about all that, but put it in perspective for us
I want to put exercise in perspective.
Okay, go ahead.
Along with food and all the other elements. This scripture, 1 Timothy 4, verse 8, physical training. I'm going to translate it into exercise, okay? Exercise is of some value. Well, we know it has a great value. We talked about all the different values it has.
Right.
But in perspective, exercise is of some value, but godliness has value for all things, holding promise for both the present life and the life to come. In perspective, that's why when you look at the food at the stress management pyramid, exercise is toward the bottom of the stress. As important as it is toward the bottom, the spiritual component, integrating spiritually into our lives, godliness comes at the very top. That is the most important, the single most important resource in stress management.
We've been talking with Dr. Skip McCarty. We've been talking about stress and how we can cope with it. There is a seminar that's been produced by Dr. McCarty that's available for communities and individuals. It's called Stress Beyond Coping. And you can get more information about this and the other 7 keys in dealing with stress and managing it in your life. We hope that you can take advantage of that resource. We're glad you've watched us today, and we hope that as a result of today's program, you'll have health and happiness that lasts for a lifetime.